I decided to watch all the tier lists and make my own one to show you the best of the best, even if that doesn't align with my own vision, solely for one purpose, to give you the best possible gains. And before we start, we have to lay down the criteria, and that is pretty simple. It has to train the chest effectively, and it has to have the capability for progressive overload. And I would love to add here risk of injury, but that is mainly just fear-mongering, lack of proper technique and form, at least most cases. Dumbbell fly. This does exactly what a bench press does, except it's worse, and it doesn't inherently cause shoulder pain unless your form is off or your anatomy is just not a good match for this exercise, but it trains the chest exactly where the bench press does, so it has to fly to the D category. Standing cable press. I rarely see anybody doing this, but you are not going to press much standing. It is the same as a bench press in terms of loading, and by no means it is bad. I still have to banish it to the D tier. Only because if you are in a gym setting, you will have access to dumbbells and barbells, and even machines. Push-ups, they are okay. And once you learn them, you will have to do a ton. And it is really difficult to get the muscle close to failure unless you are going to do around 40 reps plus. But still, it is not a bad option. I'm just going to put it at C tier. Barbell bench press, one of the big three, trains the chest effectively. Stable. In terms of progressive overload, it is limitless, and it is going to train the vast majority of your chest volume, so it has to belong to the S tier. It's one of the best. Dumbbell bench press. It is going to have the same effect as the barbell version, except it is going to be less stable, but you are going to gain more freedom of movement. But even then, this is always going to look down on other exercises from the top because it belongs to S tier. There is always this question, which one is better, dumbbell or the barbell? With the barbell, you can press more weight because it's more stable, but with the dumbbell, you are going to have more freedom of movement. So that means that you can press in a more comfortable, probably in a more optimal arm path. But the question is that going to offset the load? And I'm not going to BS you. I don't know the answer for that. I just do both. Cable flies. They are great because they are going to train your chest at a more shortened position. That is something that presses can't do. Progressive overload is great. And if you are using a bench to anchor yourself, and it's going to be an S tier, without bench, because we are going to limit the amount of weight that you can use, that's only going to be A tier. But you will probably have a bench in your gym. Dumbbell single arm bench press. Listen, you don't get a special award for juggling a weight on one hand and you are trying to balance yourself on the bench and fighting your own demise. The only thing you get is no gains. D tier. Floor flies. Look, every exercise has a point, but it is the most challenging one, and for any presses, that's going to be when your arm is next to your side. So going below that is going to challenge your chest the most. Doing this exercise on the floor doesn't just increase the safety net, but it is also increasing the catabolic level of this exercise. It is literally the same as doing quarter squats and then saying, my legs are not growing. Catabolic tier. Incline bench press. Whether you use a dumbbell or barbell, it is a great way to hit your front delta and your upper chest. The only mistake you don't want to make is arching your back, because that's going to put you in the same position as if you were to do a flat barbell bench press or a dumbbell one. And also the question is, do you even need to focus on your upper chest, or is it going to give you a bigger fullness for your chest? And that is down to your genetics, the insertion origins, the muscle belly. There are people who can train their upper chest and it is going to contribute to a bigger and fuller looking chest, and while others, they can get away not training it and still have a good chest. How do you know it? Unless you dissect yourself, you won't. So in this case, start experimenting. If it's working, it is working. If it's not, you didn't waste much time. A tier. Underhanded bench press. This is an option. The reason it works is the arm path. You are going to be forced to keep your elbow in an angle next to your side, and that is the most optimal way to train your chest. I have been experimenting with this exercise, and I have to say that I prefer the dumbbell variation. It feels a bit more comfortable, but in terms of progressive overload and getting the muscle close to failure, it feels a bit clunky. So I'm just going to put it at B tier. Machine chest fly. Stable. Trains the chest as intended. Progressive potential is amazing. Range of motion is great. It's safe. It is a solid S tier. And I really like the hammer strength version. And if you have that in your gym, then you have to buy a yearly membership. And in my other gym, we only have a really cheap matrix one, still gets the job done. So I have to say it, if you're not using it, you have access to it, you're missing out. Pullovers. For a long time, people said that this is a great chest and lat exercise. And I hate to disappoint anybody, but this is probably the worst thing you can do for all of these muscles in terms of hypertrophy. Like, look at the range of motion. It's going to train your chest at the very bottom for like around 15 degree and then swap it to your lats, but at that point you barely have any resistance on you. So it is not going to train your chest effectively, it is not going to train your lats effectively. This is one of the biggest waste of time and energy when it comes to hypertrophy. I can see some other use in terms of flexibility or stretching, loaded stretching, but apart from that, this belongs to the iron graveyard, catabolic tier. Chest dips. Lean forward and maintain that position. It's going to hit mainly your lower chest and some of your mid one based on your forward lean position or how far you are leaning forward. I personally love this exercise, but only because my gym is short of machines. But this is certainly not the be all end all. It is almost the same story as your upper chest. Your genetics are going to dictate how much it is going to influence your overall chest, but you also get enough lower chest stimulus if you are doing flat bench press, barbell or dumbbells with an arch. Even then, this is an A tier. Decline bench press. I just don't see the reason why you would do this exercise. When you are doing flat bench press, you are already going to get enough stimulus for your lower chest if you are doing it with an arch. But if you feel like, or if you know yourself and you know that this is going to have a huge impact on your overall chest volume, by all means do this exercise. But this is still only in the mid B tier. Swan press. I only have two problems with this exercise, and I'm going to come out and say this. If you are choosing a plate exercise and that's already a gimmicky one, you are intentionally ruining your own gains. The loading is already a problem, but the range of motion, just look at it. We already talked about that with the floor flies, that your chest has to be challenged, and that only happens when your arms are coming around 90 degrees next to your side and go below that. And with this exercise, the plate is going to limit you. If you grab a smaller plate, then it's going to be your loading. You can never get the muscle close to failure. So this is still going to be more of a triceps exercise with some iso chest hold, but still, it's a gimmicky exercise. It's a catabolic tier. Plate push away. This screams of not understanding gravity and resistance. Gravity will always point down. You will get some isometric chest, some upper chest, shoulders, but you are never going to take your chest close to failure. Never. Not with this exercise. So this also belongs to catabolic tier. Please don't do this. Converging chest press. If you have this in your gym, please use it. This is a God tier exercise. This literally does what your chest wants to do. It wants to converge and push. In terms of loading, it is great, stable, and okay, some machines, the design is just wider than your frame and it can cause some shoulder discomfort, like the video what I'm showing right now. For me, I just don't like that one, but in my old gym, I have a really good machine, and even then, this is always going to be an S tier one. Landmine press. This is great for training your upper chest, and I find it really accessible, easy to set up, easy to load it, somewhat stable, but it is still just A tier, and it can never go up to S tier, and it doesn't matter how much I love it. Around the world. Gimmicky Instagram exercise for views. You're not training your chest effectively, loading doesn't make sense, the movement is awkward, and I'm already feeling catabolic just talking about this. Trash tier. Smith machine press. And this gets a lot of hate because it is down on the Smith machine. I hate to disappoint anybody, but you shouldn't let your emotion stand in the way of gaining muscle. This is a great exercise and it also belongs to S tier. If you only do the S and A tier exercises and progress them to a questionable strength level, then you are never going to complain about your chest size unless you are genetically really not blessed. And occasionally you can throw in some of the B tier exercises just for some variety, but you also don't have to. But going below B tier, I have to question your intention in the gym. Talk to you soon.